Hey Andy, it is 7:45 on Monday night, and I am still in my classroom. I super appreciated everything that you had to say about calling last week. It really struck a chord with me because I kind of used to feel the same way too when I wasn't sure what my calling was or where I was supposed to be. After a lot of praying, I realized that it is an education, and I just want to talk a little bit about a different kind of pressure from calling, one that maybe you haven't experienced, one that I definitely have. So I've known since I was 5 years old that I wanted to be a teacher. My very first kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Bloom, was such a huge inspiration in my life. I absolutely adored her. She was seriously so cool. Although the only thing I remember her doing was like pulling out wiggly teeth. So I don't know what that says, but I adored Mrs. Bloom and Mrs. Remersma and Mrs. Mulder and Mrs. Vanderplug and Miss Iwema and Mr. Terhar and Mrs. Snowink and Mrs. Dykstra and Mr. Bredevogue, who were my a lot of my teachers from grades K through 8. And then all my high school teachers were really awesome too, and all I ever wanted was to be just like those teachers who had been such a huge inspiration in my life. And then I got to college, and I knew that I was going to study education, and I started studying it and learning more about it, and I absolutely adored it. I loved everything that I was learning. And as I progressed through my education, it just became so and so much more clear to me that teaching is what I wanted to do. And then I hit my very first practicum. It's kind of like student teaching, but a little bit, I don't know, less hours or simpler. I was responsible for teaching a class, but only 3 times in one semester. I was responsible for doing one wall decoration, and then I was also responsible for being in the classroom for a total of 70 hours over the semester. Whether that looked like grading, whether that looked like teaching or assisting students, whatever it was, 70 hours was the minimum. And I was doing it in high school. And it turns out that as a 21-year-old teaching 11th and 12th grade, maybe not my thing. I really started to doubt whether or not teaching was where I was supposed to be. And it was really, really hard for me because at that point, this is all I had ever wanted since I was 5 years old. Like 21 years later, here I am doing my thing. And I'm like, I have no idea what I would be if not for teaching. And it really freaked me out because at the time I kind of felt like I sucked at it. And I was having a lot of trouble with Cornerstone's education department and getting to do what I wanted to do within the ed department, and people telling me that I wasn't going to be a good teacher. And I literally had a professor tell me that my teaching style was better fitted for the 1950s than for the 2000s. And it just crushed me. It crushed me. And it was just a lot of pressure to know that the thing that I had felt like I was called to my entire life maybe wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. Now, clearly, I ended up as a teacher, but it's not the kind of teaching that I thought I would be doing. That professor who told me that I was better suited for teaching in the 50s should see my school now, because the stuff that we are doing is so futuristic, and the type of education is just absolutely amazing to go out and see and do. And Andy, I didn't really understand the kind of teaching that I wanted to do until I started student teaching in my project-based learning middle school classroom at Vanguard. That experience is what really woke me up to, hey, this is what teaching can be, and this is what relationships with students can look like. So I guess I wanted to respond to your calling video by saying, I get it. I understand that the calling struggle, because calling terrified me. It absolutely terrified me until I figured out that my calling is middle school and that my calling is PBL and maybe even alternative kids. So that's all I have for you today. I'm sorry my video was really long and rambly, but it's 7:45 and I am still at school, and I am still trying to prepare for tomorrow. I've been here since 7 o'clock this morning. So I got here at 7 o'clock this morning. I taught all day. I was in meetings until 5. I went grocery shopping. I got dinner. And then I came back around 7 to do more planning for tomorrow. Do you ever feel like you're drowning? Sometimes I feel like I'm drowning, but that's okay. It is the second week of school and I will get there. So pray for me and I'll keep praying for you. And I'm so glad that God has put us where we are in our lives. I love you so much, Andy. Bye.